Wow, as you just saw, that was a pretty striking video. Welcome back to Semper Fallis, episode 3. It's Alex and Doc. Uh, what we're going to talk about today is a couple of issues that came up across the country, and it's the protest for Amir Locke, who was a Minneapolis resident who was recently killed at the hand of law enforcement. And we're gonna bring it to another point of government in contention with 1 dead and 5 injured in a Black Lives Matter Antifa protest that happened in, where was it?
This is in Portland.
Portland,
Yeah.
Oregon. Alex, go ahead. We'll start off with the tip of the story. Thanks for coming into Semper Fallis episode 3, where we're going to explain to you why we're usually always dicked by the government. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. So as Doc said, we have 1 woman dead, 5 injured from a shooting at a Black Lives Matter march in Portland. And the march was protesting the death of Amir Locke. And that's the video that you just witnessed, was the no-knock raid that resulted in his death when he was not doing anything illegal. He hadn't broken any laws, and he didn't get a chance to defend himself in court or have any of his rights protected and held.
He didn't even get a chance to surrender. And that's the tough part of that is he, as you saw in the video, he's wrapped up in a blanket and someone's kicking in the door.
He probably doesn't even know who shot him.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on if I'm that person. And me and Alex have had training in the military to, deal with adverse situations. I don't think we would have done any better than Amir did.
No, and it looks like he had trigger discipline. He had his finger straightened off the trigger
Yeah.
before and that's waking up still twisted and tied up in blankets and had trigger discipline.
And it's an unfortunate story that I think deserves more attention because what we said in episode 1 is this results in a thing called democide, where it's the government killing you, and we've got a lot to talk about and unpack today.
So I'm going to go ahead and just read a little bit. So we have Portland police respond to the scene of Saturday's shooting in Northeast Portland. From what I've gathered before I go into what the article actually says, it sounds like these ladies were essentially marking off the road to prevent people from going into an area where they had protesters. So they were essentially just kind of like guarding the line so that the people that were protesting weren't in danger from whether it be cars or
vehicle
other
hazards.
assailants,
Absolutely.
what have you. But so I'm going to go ahead and read for anyone that's not actually watching on video. So it says one woman was hit by a shooter Sunday evening. Shared her experience in writing with the Mercury. The Mercury is a local media outlet in Oregon. She requested anonymity. I hate that one. Out of fear for her safety. She said that she and 3 other women were standing in the middle of the street near Northeast 55 and Northeast Hasselo, working as traffic safety volunteers to steer traffic away from the planned march. All women were allegedly unarmed. As far as I can tell, they were all unarmed, but I guess stay safe and just say allegedly, because it's not like I have firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, I saw CNN was posting that they were armed, but it's all hearsay and conjecture at this point.
Well, there were, so if you're looking into this topic, if you're looking into the protests that were in Portland this weekend, there were armed protesters, and some of them were aggressively brandishing their weapons at motorists and pointing their weapons at motorists, and then getting into altercations, which did eventually result in motorists getting out and drawing their weapon and then getting slammed to the ground. All parties in that context are at fault, because none of that stuff is protected under your constitutional rights. You can't just go around pointing your firearms at people and expecting them not to have the right to point theirs back at you.
And to assume that you're a lethal threat and use lethal force against you.
But this situation, this scenario is entirely different, because these women were allegedly unarmed. They weren't threatening anyone. They were just trying to protect protesters. And so let me continue. The woman described seeing a man angrily walking towards them after exiting a house. We were unarmed and actively working to de-escalate him and get him to leave, she told the Mercury. He wasn't threatened by us. He walked up to us yelling about protesters in his neighborhood and opened fire within 90 seconds. They don't describe the man. They don't describe any accounts that may have occurred before the incident, other than this immediate interaction between him and these organizers. I guess I wouldn't call them protesters, because they're guarding the roadway. They're not really They're not actively.
Well, I mean, they're
but
part of it, but they're not. They're
definitely associated.
Yeah,
with it.
but they're. I mean, to come out there with a weapon to meet them, maybe okay. It depends on what your local laws are. I mean, if I had a concealed...
And it depends on were they armed or not. Right here, they say allegedly unarmed, so we don't know.
I know, there's been other reports that say that they were armed, but it's conjecture. We don't know the whole story yet. There's obviously a huge investigation into what's going on.
All right.
But if I came out to meet people, I would try to be as disarming as humanly possible, and probably wearing a gun on my hip open or slung across my back or front is probably not the most way to make friends.
You don't want to come out, but I guess, I mean, according to the witness, based on the way she described him marching towards them, it was written all over his face that
he wanted to fight.
He wasn't happy.
No, he was pissed.
So she goes on to say that she was standing about 10 feet, or the article goes on to say, she was standing about 10 feet away from the man when he shot her, and the bullets grazed her knee and arm. Another woman was shot in the stomach, leg, and chest. Another was hit in the neck. The fourth woman was fatally shot. The woman who spoke with the Mercury said that volunteer street medics were the first on the scene to respond to their injuries. The woman said the entire encounter was recorded on her GoPro camera, which the police have confiscated as evidence. Well, I guess maybe we'll find out if they ever release the footage. Maybe we'll know what really happened.
I know the police love to release body cam footage when it
exonerates them,
or
they think it will.
Yeah, it either exonerates them or it completely dismisses the other side's argument. I think the public has a right to see this information. Also, I think it's up to the person who recorded it on their body camera to release it. I don't think it should be up to the government to have control of that right now, since it was privately recorded. Well, not privately, but it was their recording. It doesn't make sense. The sooner this information gets out, hopefully cooler heads can prevail, and we have a better understanding of what actually happened and who the aggressor was.
Yeah. Now, this might not be, this isn't a live stream, so I'm just kind of speaking off topic, but if you're going to record events and you're out in what could be a dangerous situation, it's better to live stream, because you have to have absolute faith in law enforcement to believe that the footage is going to get released or get to the right people.
Well, I mean, how many times
or won't get corrupted or somehow.
I'm pretty critical about law enforcement, as most people know who know me, is that law enforcement can mute the WVCs,
which they shouldn't do, because that's obstruction.
Yeah, that's a big no-no. But they're allowed to at this point to mute but still record when they have their little powwows about what's going on. So is the government the greatest arbiter of information that gets disseminated? Absolutely not. Yeah, thank you, Alex. Absolutely not.
So, yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. And hopefully that footage does eventually come out and we can get, more than just this one woman's perspective. We can get the objective truth, which I believe her. She's not pointing fingers and saying it's white supremacists or Trump supporters. She literally just said an angry man. That's pretty objective to me. She's not throwing qualifiers in there.
There's no hyperbole.
Yeah. So it's not meant to draw sides, to draw a line in the sand and say he was on your side, so we hate
him. Is it a white or black issue?
Yeah.
No. This guy came out and was angry.
Let's see here. So she said she was discharged from OHSU at midnight Saturday, along with another of the injured women. And she said she was surprised to learn that paramedics also took the shooter. So the shooter's down too, I guess. Why don't I have the name of the shooter?
Alex, doesn't that the fact they brought the shooter into a hospital lead to maybe there could have been a psychological break for the individual, and they said, hey, we got to IE you? You know what I mean?
Well, you don't have to do that when they're a shooter, but yeah, I suppose if they were upset and they didn't want to go to the hospital, you could IEA them. But if they're shooting people, I don't think you need to IEA them.
I'm like, who gets arrested in this?
I'm not laughing at the shooting.
I know.
I'm laughing at that, but.
But why did he go to the hospital? And they're like, well, see you later, friend. Have a good day. It's weird. Like, is he crazy or isn't he? And did he do something wrong? Arrest him.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who knows us already knows this without saying, but anyone watching this video or this channel that's new to what is Semper Fallis and kind of our beliefs and mindset. You know, we're pretty objective, although, you know, the media and the things that are happening in our life, you would think that we're conservative or anti-establishment, but really it's just kind of fair and not fair.
Yeah, I think we're pretty literal and principled in our views.
Yeah.
You know, we understand right and wrong and good and not good based on evidence that's presented in front of us.
Yeah, which is the worst part is that we can only make decisions based on the evidence that we've been presented with or been able to dig up, so presented to us through our own efforts.
And we try to bring that to the people.
Yeah, and so in this case, with this protest shooting, it appears to be, for the most part, unprovoked. I'm sure the neighbor, as they quoted him as being, I'm sure he felt provoked because his neighborhood was under protest. I guess maybe he forgot that it's a constitutionally protected right to peaceably assemble and air your grievances.
Towards your government.
Because without that ability to peaceably assemble and air your grievances, there's only one other option.
And that's the police state. And we've seen that in Canada recently.
Yes. Well, actually, I guess there's two other options: is to sit down and let the police state trample over you,
right? Yeah.
Or the other option, which is violence.
You're 100% correct. There's a dichotomy. It's one or the other, and we like to believe that.
Whoa!
It's getting a little wild.
Hope that didn't mess that up.
We like to believe that and you know, I'm gonna get on a little constitutional tirade right here.
Go ahead, do it.
Is that our constitutional system works beautifully. It was written by good people who understand what oppression was and opened the book. Not saying that it was perfect, because it wasn't when it was founded, but that it had the ability to correct itself. I like to believe that, you know, we as a people have moved forward and can understand that to peaceably assemble and to protest for redress of grievances is a very sacred right to address your government. And at the point where we've seen recently in Canada, where they'll just march on you and beat you into the ground if you disagree with whatever their orders are, if they make whatever law or
just following orders.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm terrible at accents when I'm recording. I swear I'm better.
It's very
at these
German.
I'm better at these normally. So I wanted to read this. So this is just a quote from Commissioner Dan Ryan in the Portland area. He's pointing to the city's high rate of gun violence. He says, "I worry our community has become numb to this unacceptable level of violence. I am awaiting further updates on the situation from Mayor Wheeler and the Portland Police Bureau. For now, I ask everyone to allow the investigation to occur so we can better understand how this happened. I ask you to show your support with kindness and gentleness, to help calm our city, to love your neighbor, and to help Portland be safe for children, elders, and everyone in between." I think it's a little late. So, I mean, you're talking about I don't know shit about Dan Ryan.
Yeah, I don't have no idea who that guy is.
But you talk about Mayor Wheeler. This guy encouraged the violence all through 2020, and now all of a sudden, are we expected to have him discourage violence?
Right.
The only time he discouraged violence at all in the last 2 years was when they had tried to attack his apartment building.
Well, no, he also discouraged violence when the protesters, which I don't have a problem with based on principle, is when they attacked the police barracks and buildings. Because if you have a problem with government, you're taking it to the government. You're not burning Little Caesars and Wendy's.
Well, I'm going to qualify that a little bit. I'm okay with them protesting it. I don't support burning down a building because arson is illegal.
True.
Like, your Constitution doesn't protect you if you commit arson.
Well, the argument would be is, like, at what point is the government allowed to just behave the way they are?
Oh,
that's the argument.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the argument.
I agree, and that would go back to the if you're not given the opportunity to peaceably air your grievances and have them be heard,
absolutely,
then the alternative becomes violence, whether it's violence from the oppressor or violence from the marginalized that are seeking to have their voices heard. So
I think you nailed it right there.
Yeah. All right. So as we know, one woman is dead, 5 are injured. Gunfire broke out. This was in Northeast Portland. And so Andy No was on the ground in the area, and he was recording. I'm on his Twitter here.
Yeah, this guy, he has been put through the ringer out in the Northwest.
He's been put through the ringer everywhere he goes. Didn't he have his face bashed in and almost murdered by protesters?
I think about 2 years ago he had what they're calling out, air quoted, a milkshake.
Oh yeah,
thrown at his head, but it was kind of like concrete. So I mean, this guy's he's pretty objective.
Well, I have to say, if you look at who he is,
I think he got tied with InfoWars in that castrated him from any legitimacy.
Well, no, not
and not that I believe that
legitimacy in the eyes.
Yes, thank you.
Of them.
Yes,
in the eyes of the other side that is attacking him. I don't even know what to call them because it's not a homogenous group.
You were correct.
But yeah, he may have been tied to them, and mostly because a lot of news outlets, including InfoWars, have utilized some of his footage and stuff because he's boots on the ground.
He nails it.
He's in the most dangerous situations recording this stuff firsthand. And what seems strange is he's not, or he wasn't anyway, he was not against the left. He was just recording objectively
what was
for
happening.
History.
Yeah.
And then what happened is the narrative was being twisted and manipulated, and he was showing the truth, and suddenly he became public enemy number one to the Antifa of the world.
Well, he got targeted. He was the easy target.
And what's interesting about that is, if you look at who he is, he's a minority. I don't know his sexual orientation, but he has a rainbow flag in his name, in his the header of his social media profile.
New York Times bestseller.
By all means, this isn't someone who should be.
He's got 1 million followers.
Attacked by the leftist regime.
He's 1 million followers.
But they hate him. And it's not one of those hate him because they ate him kind of moments. It's not a Tom Brady moment where you hate him because you ain't him. No, they hate him because he's exposing the truth. But in this regard, the reason I bring him up at all is he was in Portland, when it always seems to be in these places when things are going down.
So it's a tough video to watch. So anybody who's a little sensitive, you might want to look away right now.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing here is the aftermath of what appears to be the altercation between the protesters and then the homeowner. And if you look over to the left, you just saw them working CPR on someone.
Yeah.
That's
pretty crappy compressions, but whatever.
Yeah, that's a trauma code.
Weak.
Yeah, that's trauma code. That's not good for anybody, and the likelihood of survival is pretty slim.
Yeah. So now, just to be clear, I am not 100% positive if this is the same group of people that have been shot, like in this video versus the article that we were discussing before.
It looks close.
It should be, but I can't tell if these are all women. And according to that article, it was all women that were injured.
It does look like they are 4 women down. There might be another that we don't see because they say 5.
The woman with the cheetah or leopard print, I would assume that's a woman. Who knows? But this person here that is towards the bottom left of this previous frame, but they're panning to them now. Bottom left of the screen, I can't tell if that's a woman or not, and it's nothing meant about it. You just can't tell. So
this is a terrible scene. Where I think it's important that we share it because at Semper Fallis we love to show what is actually happening in the world. We're not gonna sugarcoat issues. We're gonna show you the real happenings of the world when it comes to anything we show.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the same scene because it says, I didn't even read this. It says 1 female deceased, 5 others injured. So I just want to talk about this for 1 second. So, they don't know. It says Antifa are claiming the shooting was politically motivated. I wouldn't believe anything Antifa says because Antifa seems to be politically motivated. Whereas on the surface, they seem like they're anti-establishment, but based on their actions, they support the establishment, and the establishment supports them.
They want government force.
Yes, they want media censorship, and they want government force. They just want to be a part of the team. They want to have the force represent them. They want the force. They want the power.
Right.
They are the Sith Like,
You know what? We're not trying to be funny about what we just witnessed and what we showed you people. This is terrible, but this is real life. And Andy No has been unbiased and completely objective through this incident. He's been following Antifa out in the Northwest for what, 2-3 years now. He's been pushing the issue of exposing them, and then it's just, this is a terrible thing that I don't believe needed to happen at all. However, evil exists in the world. I think Alex will understand that no matter what you do and where you go, and no matter how much you're prepared, bad people can do terrible things.
Yeah. Now, I guess the hardest thing about this is it's hard to understand. Now, I know if you're looking at the broad brush, then you can understand that they're protesting the shooting of Amir Locke, which
we brought to attention.
100% agree should not have happened, and I agree with the protest.
However, I support them 100% as well.
Yeah. I think we clipped a little bit there. We're getting loud.
Yeah, we're getting loud. Getting emotional.
But then you see these protesters, and they claim that they're BLM representatives or supporters that are harassing police in Portland. And I'm just not 100% sure that these are related to the same incident, because I don't know what the hell a Portland police chief or police department has to do with Amir Locke.
Yeah, people have the right to redress anyone in government who is against them for any number of reasons. And
so I guess what I'd ask is if you happen to know, because we're not infallible. We can only get so much information in and retain it at once. If you happen to be from the Portland area and you understand and you know something I don't about what sort of incident may have happened that they're actually bothering this police chief about, like they want to be heard, maybe it's not, it can be associated with Amir Locke because it's similar, but it's different. You tell us. We
get in the comment section and let us know.
Because, the problem is when you're in different parts of the world, you might not believe this unless you have a VPN. But if I'm on the East Coast and I try to search news, I won't know what's really happening on the West Coast. I get a curated version that has been manipulated and changed. It's whitewashed, if you will. And then if I change my VPN and I make myself live in Oregon, then I'm going to get a totally different news feed that tells me the real information, because it's like they understand they can't hide it because I'm local. I'll hear it anyway. So if you're local and you know something about why these BLM or Antifa supporters are, heckling? Yeah, they're heckling the chief of police. I think it's the chief of police. And then taking over the microphone and preaching to the media. I would play. You know what? I'll play it, but it's really hard to watch.
Before you do that, Alex, if we're only 3 episodes into this, if our reach of expansion, we've got all friends in the military that are all over the country. If our reach finally gets out to the out west and the northwest, we'd love for you to comment and tell us what's actually happening on Facebook, YouTube. Let us know what's really happening if we're wrong.
Yeah, and come join us.
Yeah, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell.
And then maybe we'll fly someone in and and you don't have to be.
You don't even have to fly in. We'll zoom in.
Yeah, we can zoom in as long as you're willing to guarantee that you'll allow a straight feed the whole time, which is pretty easy. Just keep the camera on.
Just turn it on.
I will find the video of the woman.
Which video is this, Alex?
So this is, I forget her name, and it's not really important who she is. It's just that she is someone that feels wronged by. Oh, you know what? Ignore everything we're doing right now. This is what I talked about earlier. So you can be against the violence. You can be against what happened to Amir Locke. You can think you're the most patriotic person in the world. You could be a Patriot Prayer person and a BLM person. It doesn't matter. All of you should be able to agree that what you're about to see is not the way to manage a situation if you're trying to protest.
Now, what are we watching here?
So what you're about to see is gun-toting, I would call them enforcers of the protest. But they're brandishing their weapons and they're threatening drivers in the area.
It's a big no-no.
You know, because they feel tough. It's the only way I can describe it. Because you got your weapon, you think you're tough, but they don't understand that your Constitution does not protect you from threatening other civilians, especially if they're not threatening you.
Yeah, you don't have the right to intimidate.
So,
especially for a political view.
So this is only 3 minutes. Well, it's 4 minutes. We're gonna watch it. I might skip through a few things, but you know, the audio's there, and just let me know what you think.
You motherfucker! You fucking the wrong fucking people, bro! Stop the car! Stop the fucking car!
Now this is in Portland as well.
I believe so. Yeah.
From May of 21, so about a year ago.
This is from Andy No, and he's
whoa! That dude's pointing a weapon at somebody.
He's pointing a weapon directly at the driver of a car. They already shot out his tires.
Are you out of your fucking minds?
Mm-hmm.
He has no magazine in his weapon.
Somebody already shot out the tires. Whether they shot him out or knifed it.
Hey, dude, you're standing in my way to peaceably travel. Yeah, I'm going to run you over.
Well, they would argue that, well, what about the trucker convoy?
You obviously already decided to shoot at me. In New Hampshire, that's a different story. That's why we don't see that here.
Things go differently here. Whoa.
Back that up. Back that up. This is insanity at the highest level.
He's with them. Or did they block the traffic with this?
I believe they blocked traffic.
So
I believe that's a blocking position as they set up.
So who's Quanice Hayes?
Let's dig into that. I'm sure Google will unbiasedly tell us. There it is. Look at that.
We're about to learn some stuff.
Portland just settled Quanice Hayes shooting
friends.
lawsuit 4.
All right, so time out. This changes everything you've witnessed here right in real time.
We're digging as much as you are, people.
So a lot of this, now I imagine that this started because of Amir Locke, some of it. But...
Well, this is February of last year.
Yep,
So
but they just
Quanice
agreed to settle the wrongful death and excessive force used by law enforcement against Quanice Hayes.
Which is...
and that's a black man. It shouldn't matter, but they say it in their publication. Let me pull up the article. All right, so we're not going to go down the rabbit hole on this because we wanted to try to keep this...
Yeah,
We wanted to try to keep this closer to, what, like 30...
35 minutes.
What are we at? All right, we got 2 minutes. I'm going to kill it. The city of Portland unanimously agreed Wednesday to settle the wrongful death lawsuit brought by the family of Quanice Hayes, a black teenager who was fatally shot by police officers in 2017 while he was on his knees. The city has agreed to pay $1.5 million to the Hayes family, while nearly $600,000 in attorney's fees is additional costs. As part of the agreement, the city admits to no wrongdoing.
Wow! What? Then why are you paying them?
This is absurd.
This is ridiculous.
I don't even know how I caught that. I was reading so fast.
That was very organic.
They're not admitting to any wrongdoing.
But here's $2 million.
But here's $2 million. Well, here's $1.5 million plus $600,000 for your attorney fees. By the way, we didn't do anything wrong. Sure, get out of here.
Get the fuck out of here.
This is ridiculous. All right, it goes on. Despite no formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing, a majority of council members used this session to apologize to the Hayes family for both the shooting and how city officials had conducted themselves in the aftermath. Quote, I genuinely hope this settlement provides some level of relief after all the trauma and hardship the Hayes family has had to endure, said Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. Quote again, but let me be clear, what is happening today is not justice. It's not accountability. This decision does nothing to fix our broken system. I don't know what he sounds like, but that's what I imagine. It seemed like spineless.
Giant cuck.
Yeah, like super cuck. So if I were the family, sure, I'd be happy about making some money, but
once again, never replaces.
It doesn't replace Quanice Hayes.
And we don't know the event that...
We don't even need to. The police have admitted
that there was no wrongdoing.
While simultaneously admitting there was plenty of wrongdoing. There was at least $2.1 million of wrongdoing committed, while no wrongdoing was committed.
Well, is it a decision or was it a settlement? The city has agreed to pay as well.
It's
as
a settlement. It's a settlement of $2.1 million of wrongdoing that admits to.
Well, then we can just go back to the Remington issue. There's no wrongdoing, but they paid out $73 million.
Well, yeah. Anyone who doesn't know, we talked about that the other day. The settlement with the Remington firearms and the families of Sandy Hook.
There was no wrongdoing, but we still paid.
I'll tell you what, Quanice Hayes looks like a good kid.
Yeah, just a regular person.
I
was
will
shot
admit,
3 times on February 9th,
I will admit
2017
the
with an
news,
AR-15.
the news tends to pick the best picture ever, but like the most innocent looking picture. But this looks like it's fairly recent, and he looks just like a regular dude. Like this guy looks like he would have went to high school with me.
He was 17 years old when he was killed by the government. But why? It really doesn't say why. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably warm body camera evidence of what happened.
Let me read it. So it says, in February 9th of 2017, Officer Andrew Hirsch shot Hayes, 17, 3 times with an AR-15. Why does it matter it's an AR-15?
Yeah.
Why do we need to talk about what it was? He was shot. It doesn't matter what he was shot.
AR-15 kills people.
From about 10 feet away, as Hayes was on his knees with his arms raised, police had cornered Hayes in a driveway in northeast Portland following reports of armed carjackings in the area. Hayes was not armed when Hirsch killed him. Police later found a replica gun nearby.
So I mean, if we're being fair, right?
If he had a replica gun, then
that doesn't say he had it. It says it was found nearby.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean shit.
Yeah. So let's be honest here. We don't know. None of us really knows. If you're being objective, if the police officer saw the replica gun in his hand,
different story.
Then he would assume he had a gun, and that's what happened. If that gun was not in his hands and they just found it nearby, then you're dealing with corrupt cops. That's literally it. It's black and white right there. You're dealing with one or the other. A cop who thought he was in danger, or a cop who's an asshole who believes he has the power to do what he wants.
Right, and they get to hide behind that blue line.
And the badge, yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah, the fraternal order of corrupt police officers. And they're not all that way. Don't get me wrong. I know plenty of police officers.
We work with police officers constantly.
All the guys I work with are great. I have no problem with them, and honestly, they don't balk at me when I tell them I can't do that because it violates this person's rights.
No, we call them out on their bullshit on the scene.
Yeah, but I don't know what happens in the big cities, and the people that work in the big cities don't tend to live with the people that live in the big cities. So they're not advocating for their neighbors. These are strangers to them. The way that the big cities system works, and I think anyone would agree with me that it should change, is that you have people that live outside of the area that are enforcing the laws and they're the enforcers of your community, and they don't represent your community. And that has nothing to do with race, ethnicity, religion, anything. It's just if you don't live in the area, like if you don't live within a certain
a geographical area.
Yeah, if you don't live in a certain geographical area of a city, you shouldn't be allowed to work there because you don't represent the people there. You don't necessarily hold the same values. Yeah. And you're not going to witness their strife if they're going through something, and you should be there to support them as a member of the community. If you don't live there, you don't know it.
Well, I think cops now sit in cars most of the day, and I'm not beating up on cops. I don't want to beat up on cops, but for the most part, they sit in their cars and they do their traffic enforcement and they get their warrants and stuff to go serve. But there's no beat cops anymore. They don't have a true pulse on the citizenry that they used to have, maybe 60, 70 years ago. And I get things change.
It's getting worse the more they are spotlighted and hated in the media. If you ostracize police and you demonize police, you're not going to get good ones.
Well, and then
the good ones are going to leave.
You got to ask yourself, what's a good cop's worst enemy?
A bad cop?
A bad cop.
Yeah.
Because you can have 14 good cops on a scene and that one bad one. And if the 14 don't do anything to that bad one to get him out of the ranks, now you got 15 bad cops.
Yeah.
Be part of the problem. Either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And that goes for anything pretty much in life.
Yeah. And so with what little we know about what happened to Quanice Hayes, it seems that there's enough evidence to support the local community giving them $2.1 million to admit no wrongdoing, which to me seems like they're admitting a lot of wrongdoing.
Right.
But they just won't formally put it on paper so that years later.
The good thing is is they investigated themselves and they declared themselves good of no wrongdoing.
No. So I guess we have this, and this kind of circles back to the very beginning. So I don't know the story of Quanice Hayes. All I know, based on what I'm reading here, is there were suspected carjackings. He was allegedly unarmed, but they later found a fake gun near him, and they killed him. And then you have Amir Locke, which is what we used, the footage of what happened to him started off this video, and he was very clearly not pointing a weapon at law enforcement. He was very clearly not aware of what was happening around him because he had just been woken up from likely a deep sleep, was wrapped completely in blankets. You couldn't even see his face in the body camera footage, and his finger was never on the trigger. Both of these people were killed at the hands of police. Whether or not these police thought that they were in danger matters very little, because they're the ones that ended the lives of these men. And it turned out that it was more or less, from what we can gather, not justified. But that doesn't mean that you can violently prevent other people from protesting. So this neighbor that attacked and killed these women that were supporting the March for BLM,
they have a right to their First Amendment.
Those women have a right to be there. And, it doesn't matter how angry you are. They can't go on private property.
But if they're in public property.
But they're on public property on the roadway. Sorry, man. I don't care how mad you are.
Yep, too bad, so sad.
And that person shouldn't be mad either, because if their rights start coming under attack, they're going to need the right to protest. They're going to need the right to air their grievances. So while it might not be important to you right now, because your grievances might not be a big deal, if you support the regime stealing that power away from the people, when it's your turn, when you need to air your grievances, no one will listen. You won't get the platform to air those grievances. That's the whole reason for the Constitution. They understood, our founding fathers understood.
Although not perfect.
Yeah, not perfect. But if you take that away, the one thing they understood is that the government would eventually grow too powerful and corrupt. And so these had to be ingrained outside of the government, not provided by the government, provided by our makers.
Well, I mean, what you just said right there, if some of it has to do with Second Amendment. If we look at the Second Amendment, it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, which indicates that the right was already there.
Yeah.
And our Constitution of the United States doesn't just apply to U.S. citizens. It's for everybody that was ever given life. And I think a lot of other countries don't recognize that. And the beautiful thing is, for now, is we still have a lot of those inalienable rights: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the right to worship religion, peace, own arms, not be subjected to illegal search seizures, protected of our ID and papers. So there's a lot of good things that the Bill of Rights is. I know the third one's a little weird, where no troops can be quartered in your house, but I don't think that's an issue anymore. It was when they wrote it.
It might be the way that they're going. That's why it should stay. You should never abolish it if it doesn't seem like it's affecting anyone now, and it has no if it has no implication currently, like it's not bothering anyone, and you're like, oh well, it doesn't apply. Just leave it alone, because you never know, it might apply later. That's the whole reason why a lot of these things were created. A lot of them were created when they had no application to the founding fathers. They had already fought that battle. It was over. And then they put these in place because they knew eventually it would matter.
Right. They gifted us that gift of secured liberty. And all the Constitution does is say that the government cannot. It doesn't say you cannot as a person. It says the government cannot do X, Y, Z.
So I guess I think this is where we're going to end this today. So I hope you enjoyed our update. I hope that we informed you about not only a little update on Amir Locke, and I'm sad that if you were here at the beginning, I'm sad that you watched that video, but it's important that you see what happened, because it's very clear that, he was not a threat to the police officers. And you watched us in real time learn about Quanice Hayes. And for the most part, what happened to him. Now, obviously, we're shooting from the hip as far as how we describe the events there because we didn't witness any body camera, we didn't watch anything. But the fact that it's been settled out of court or in court for whatever, you can feel kind of sure in your decision that more than likely the police did violate a lot of his rights.
Oh yeah, they trampled on him,
especially to pay the family $2.1 million, even though they admit no wrongdoing. There's a lot going on right now in the world. We've got this violence senselessly happening, whether it be the Canadian border and you got the government attacking the truckers and businesses and anyone that might support them. You've got police, whether or not they're trying to just enforce laws, it seems like maybe not the case, especially in the bigger cities, but people are dying at the hands of police at a rate that I don't remember when I was a kid, but maybe I was just ignorant. And then you have people advocating for gun control as a result. And don't ever let yourself get fooled. Gun control doesn't stop gun violence. All it does is take away the ability for a good citizen to have an equalizer in the situation where a bad guy shows up with a gun.
Yeah, it's the force equalizer.
Yeah. And the last thing, and the most important thing, is we have a constitution for a reason. It can never be allowed to be muddied up and belittled by the politicians. We can't allow it to happen, not only because it's a disgrace towards the founding fathers, but it'll come back to haunt all of us shortly after, because as soon as we allow protections that are ingrained in the Constitution to be eroded, we're all going to be subject to violence and oppression. I mean, as far as I can see it. What do you think, Doc?
Well, the only violence that will be, if God forbid they ever remove the First and Second Amendment, there's literally unbridled power to the federal government to allow them to carte blanche steamroll any dissent, any discrepancy, any objection to the mainstream view that comes out of D.C. And that's why the first, the second, the third, fourth, fifth, all the way through 10, they all are so sacred to how we should conduct ourselves and how we should also honor that the lives of those who signed that Declaration and Constitution put their lives on the line to make that happen. We should honor them. And that's why it's important to pass on to further generations the understanding of liberty, freedom, and values. And
this is coming from two honorably discharged military members, one with 2 Purple Hearts.
Well, that's because I wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, well, you got 2 of them, you live, so you got 2 Purple Hearts. But,
that's why people are like, oh, you got 2 Purple Hearts? It's terrible. Or they go, that's awesome. I go, no, being shot in the face would have been terrible.
Yeah.
I'll take one in the leg any day.
But, we've served the country, and at the same time, and I actually think that most veterans will agree, by serving the country, you realize you're not serving the actual interests of the country. You're serving the interests of the corrupt, the oligarchs, if you will. And it only takes being there for a little bit to realize that people in these other countries that you're supposed to be at war with tend to be very friendly.
Yeah.
Tend to be like the nicest people. I remember meeting the men and women from Uganda, Iraqis, and all of them very friendly. Even the guys cleaning the porta potties that were around Iraq were the friendliest people I'd ever met.
Just doing a job.
I met men and women from Nepal, from various parts of Asia that were there on the same base. And all I can say is that it's not regular people that go to war. It's governments and power-hungry oligarchs.
So just keep an eye, everybody just keep an eye on what's happening in Ukraine and Russia and try to figure out what's in the vested interests of the American people and our blood and treasure once again. 21 years at war and here we go again. So just do as much digging as you can, try to be objective and figure out what's going on, because I don't like what we're seeing.
So I guess with that, we're going to sign off right here. So as you know, you're watching Semper Fallis, where we discuss how we, the people, are always dicked.
Much love, everybody.
Yep. So like, share, subscribe.
Click that notification bell.
Yeah, ring the bell. Let everyone know about what we're talking about. And if you have any suggestions on topics you want us to discuss,
comment.
Or if you happen to have sources that you think are relevant to what we've already talked about and you think it might change our mind, comment and let us know about that, because we're open-minded. We don't set a line in the sand and say that's what we believe and there's no way of changing our mind. So tell us what you think. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this segment. This is kind of just in the middle of the week thing, and maybe we'll do more of these.
And I want to add one more thing. Alex and myself, we're going to be conducting the 2022 press coverage where we've got our press badges. We're going to go out there. We're going to press the candidates on the national and local level. So stay tuned for that.
All right. Semper Fallis, my friends.
Always dicked.
Always dicked.
Thanks, everyone.